Commuters in the country's largest city could be nursing a headache for a very different reason this festive season after the federal court paved the way for train strikes over Christmas and the New Year. Transport for New South Wales says passengers could expect delays and cancellations across the Sydney trains, Intercity and New South Wales Trainlink services from today, and we've already seen disruptions on the South Coastline.
It comes after the court lifted an injunction against the industrial action by the Rail, Tram and Bus Union. The New South Wales Government now wants the Fair Work Commission to step in to stop possible travel chaos on New Year's Eve. But there is a silver lining this morning, with trams running on the Parramatta Light Rail network for the first time in 80 years. Myles Houlbrook-Walk is in Western Sydney. Good morning, Myles. So much going on in the transport space at the moment. What is the latest?
That's exactly right, Steph. Well, the latest is we now know there's about 80 services already delayed or impacted and 57 services in total. And when I say 80 services, we're talking about individual parts that have been impacted, and 57 services. These are lines that might run from central in the city to Parramatta, for example. 57 of them are going to be impacted as a consequence already of the actions taken by the Rail, Tram and Bus Union. They're taking this action because they're seeking an increase in wage and pay conditions of about 32%. The government's off a way off. These negotiations have stalled and started and stalled and started, and the government thought they'd had a breakthrough when they had an injunction against the Rail, Tram and Bus Union's action. That being overturned yesterday has left them now scrambling to find a solution to what is commuter chaos, as you rightly mentioned. Transport Minister Jo Haylen spoke just a short time ago about how the impacts are already being felt.
We are being hit by industrial action across the network, and passengers do need to allow extra time and to check their travel apps. We do know that parts of our network, particularly in the South Coast, will be closed south of Wollongong, and across the metropolitan network we are already seeing cancellations and delays.
So that's the Minister there, Jo Haylen, talking about the immediate impacts already being felt. Now, when might these actions stop? Well, there's basically two solutions. One is an agreement between the unions and the government. The unions were quite hopeful of that before this injunction was first filed by the state government. The state government yesterday saying that there really were still a lot of major stipulations that needed to be covered and a long way between the two parties to negotiate a deal. The other solution is through the Fair Work Commission. Now, the state government will have a hearing on Monday at 10 a.m. on the 23rd of December. It's there that we may see the Fair Work Commission rule that this action is unreasonable from the union and will cause too much disruption, and is at too short notice ahead of New Year's Eve. Crucially, that is the busiest day on the train network. About 1 million people try to go to Sydney Harbour and Circular Quay to watch the world-famous fireworks. It's a massive day on the calendar, and many people rely on trains to get there because of the significant road closures in and around the city that make it very hard to drive to that location. So you've got so much going on, and with so little time, certainly all eyes will be on this Fair Work Commission hearing on Monday, Steph.
Yes, there's definitely a lot at stake, I should say. Thank you so much for that update, Myles Houlbrook-Walk in Sydney. Well, in the French town of Avignon, nearly 50 men have been found guilty of raping Gisèle Pelicot, with her ex-husband jailed for 20 years in a case which has shocked the world. To get some of the reaction from home, Yumi, CEO of the Older Women's Network, joins us now. And a warning, this story does contain some details that a lot of you may find really distressing. Yumi, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure. Good morning.
Why has this case really affected so many women and men, of course, too, but so many people around the world?
I think the case has resonated with so many people because it has been so horrific. The thought that when you're meant to be safe in a home with people you love, who you treasure, has actually been perpetrating some of the most horrific abuse against you is something I think that we all find shocking and completely distressing. So it has also shown the world that sexual assault is really more common than we care to admit, because if we're to look at who the perpetrators are, they are just, you know, ordinary men, nurses, bakers, firefighters, soldiers, you know, gardeners. So they walk amongst us. And I think this case has really shaken all of us and helped us to galvanize us that more has to be done to stop this.
Yumi, I think one of the things that has affected a lot of people as well is the fact that Gisèle decided to not remain anonymous during this trial, which was, of course, her right. She wanted to throw it open and shine a spotlight on her ex-husband and all the other men who have now, of course, been found guilty and sentenced over this crime. What do you make of her stand and her resilience?
I think we have all been completely floored by how she has stood up with great dignity and fortitude in that courtroom when all of the incredible, horrific details of what was perpetrated against her was laid bare before the world. And she has said that shame has to change sides, and she wants all the victims of sexual assault to think that if she can do it, they can too. And she had a purpose, a commitment, and even when, you know, people put to her that she's being so brave, she says, no, I'm not brave, I am committed. And she wants to see change. And so she has allowed all of us into the courtroom. And for that, we are eternally grateful, because it's given all of us working in the space to advocate, to lobby, to change legislation, culture, mindsets, policies around ending violence against women, an opportunity to talk about it as we are doing so this morning.
Yumi, there was something interesting that I read as well about your organisation sending over a scarf to Gisèle. Can you tell us the story behind that?
Absolutely. When this case first came to light and when we read about it, we knew that the older women, because Gisèle is an older woman, and to have gone to court, she has also proven that sexual assault knows no barriers. Everyone, from young to old, are victims of sexual assault. So she's busted that myth. And we knew that a lot of older women, and so many of whom carry the trauma of sexual assault and violence against them, who live with that trauma, will feel a huge sense of solidarity and want to stand with her. Unfortunately, we live thousands of kilometers away in Australia, and we can't be there in the courtroom like all the other French women saying, you know, merci Gisèle. And, you know, so we thought, what can we do? And, you know, what better way to express our solidarity than to send a beautiful scarf that she can wear around her neck to feel our solidarity. And a scarf, we thought it was important that it be a design by a First Nations older woman artist, and we found it in Mulia Tinki's design of Wilara, which is depicted on the scarf, and it also has a beautiful story of healing. So, you know, we thought this would be the perfect way to express our solidarity with her. And we were completely floored when her lawyer wrote to us to say that she would wear it in court, and we were so honored that she chose to wear the scarf on the day of the verdict, to let us know in a symbolic way that she knows that we are thinking of her and we are standing in solidarity with her.
Yumi Lee from the Older Women's Network, thank you so much for joining us on what is an extremely harrowing case, and we appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely an awful case. And if this story has raised any issues for you, you can get help by calling the National Sexual Assault, Domestic and Family Violence Counselling Service on 1800 RESPECT, which is 1800 737 732.